Salvador Dali. He's a famous artist with a famous mustache. And this is Andre Breton. He's also famous, but you've probably never heard of him. He did not have a mustache. Breton and Dali both became known for their role in a group called the Surrealists. And when you look at what that group did, you might think they were all crazy. But they were actually quite serious. And they ended up changing the course of history. Well, art history, anyway. People use the word surreal, to describe things that are crazy.
Whoa.
Or too strange to be real.
Surreal.
But surrealism was about more than just melting clocks. It was about philosophy, politics, art, and revolution. Surrealism was a movement, a group of people who focused on the world of dreams in order to create a new reality, a reality that was beyond real, or surreal. To understand surrealism, you have to understand Paris in the early 1900s. It was stuffy, proper, full of rational, well-mannered people buying mild, decorative art and living life on their best behavior. And then, the world went to war. World War I changed everything. Andre Breton, who was a 19-year-old poet at the time, was sent to war as a medic, and that is a seriously traumatic way to grow up. For 4 straight years, Europe was violence, disease, and death. Soldiers watched whole cities crumble, suffered gas attacks, and rotted alive in the trenches. Nearly 60% of the men who went to war suffered casualties. By the end of the war, almost 38 million people were injured, imprisoned, missing, or dead. Afterwards, Europe was a disaster. Breton and everyone else who made it out alive were scarred for life, and the world as they knew it was basically ruined. The war made people question their own society and start to look for a different way to live. Breton and his friends figured that if the traditional, rational approach to life had ended in war, maybe it was time to try something new. They began rebelling against authority, the government, the church, the well-to-do members of society, and did everything they could to disrupt order. They joined an aggressive group called Dada that used art to make political statements, and they acted out against anyone telling them how to live their life. This was a totally different type of art. But Breton and his friends truly thought they could avoid another war by inspiring others to reject the reasonable, rational way of thinking that Europe was used to. They were looking for revolution. They didn't find it in Dada, but after months of experimental writing, Breton had a breakthrough. He had an inspiring dream about a man cut in half by a window. When he woke up, he realized we're not in control of everything that goes on in our mind. There's a hidden part, a disorderly imagination, and this is called the unconscious. Sigmund Freud, the father of the unconscious, first identified this hidden or unconscious part of our brain. He said the conscious mind contains the thoughts we're aware of, but it only makes up a small part of what's going on in our head. Inside the unconscious mind is the stuff we're not aware of, the deep, hidden part of ourselves that drives our fears, desires, and strange ideas. The unconscious mind creates our irrational thoughts, or the thoughts that confuse, scare, and disgust us. This was the revolutionary idea Breton had been looking for. He believed that when people ignore or suppress their irrational thoughts, they become imbalanced, and that leads to an imbalanced society, which then leads to horrible things like war. To create more balance, Breton wanted to access the unconscious mind and set the irrational thoughts free. He and a bunch of other radical writers got together to do just that. They called themselves Surrealists. As their leader, Breton wrote and published a book called The Manifesto of Surrealism, where he defined the word and officially established the group and their goals. The unconscious mind communicates through symbols in our dreams, so the Surrealists focused on the dream world. They rejected society's demand for everything to make sense, instead embracing the things that don't make sense. They said it's okay to be odd, it's okay to be scared, it's okay to shock or be shocked.
It's cool.
Surrealists did everything as a group and developed new techniques by just messing around together. They were really into automatism, a process where they basically just wrote or drew everything that came into their minds, no matter what it was. Literally whatever. After writers, painters joined the group, and Surrealist ideas started spreading throughout Europe, involving the public through Surrealist magazines, books, films, and art shows. Surrealists use a lot of the same artistic elements, and recognizing these is a good way to spot a Surrealist art piece. Look for the dreamlike effect that's often seen in Surrealist art and writing. Elements like dislocation, juxtaposition, and transformation. Surrealist artwork doesn't follow just one style or look. It's the thinking behind it that makes it surrealism. It doesn't need to be pretty, it doesn't have to make sense, and it can shock and disgust people. So, back to Salvador Dali, you know, the mustache. Well, Dali was just a child in Spain during World War I, so he didn't share the traumatic experiences of the early Surrealists. But later, as an art student, Dali followed the Surrealists from afar. He was a fan of Freud and was forever looking for the next big thing to be part of, and the Surrealists were it. But by the time Dali came to Paris, Surrealism was in crisis. Breton's priorities were shifting, and he wanted the group to be more political. His vision was to use creativity and political action to change the world, but not everyone agreed with him, so he threw those people out. Then, Dali and his friend Luis Buñuel made a film called Un Chien, shocking, violent, and full of the dreamlike sequences Surrealists were going nuts for. The Parisian public was scandalized by it, but they couldn't wait to see more. One of the main goals of Surrealism was to shock and surprise, and Dali had that covered. Breton and the Surrealists loved the film, and they latched on to Dali. He was a never-ending idea machine full of life and humor, and he brought enthusiasm and fun back to the group. Surrealism soon spread to all types of media, not just paintings. There were drawings, sculptures, film, collage, and Dali was one of the only Surrealists who created something in nearly every single one. Dali used Surrealism to express his deepest thoughts and struggles. Instead of hiding his fears and burying his issues, he used art to fully express himself, turning the uncomfortable parts of his life into unbelievable visions that audiences couldn't look away from. Dali had a good run with the Surrealists, but as another world war threatened Europe, everyone in the group went back to being serious and political again. Breton insisted art be created for revolution, not profit. Dali wasn't really into all that. After just 10 years with the group, he moved on. America offered Dali an escape from war, plus endless opportunities for his talents. So that became his next big thing. Dali introduced Surrealism to the general public and made it fun. His work was everywhere, in fashion, magazines, film. America loved it, and him. They made Dali a celebrity, embracing his personality, humor, and paintings, and accepting Surrealist imagery as a lasting part of everyday culture. As the Second World War became a reality, Breton and the remaining Surrealists fled Europe, and the group pretty much fell apart. They couldn't stop the war, but the Surrealists forever changed the way we see the world. They used art and philosophy to overthrow an established way of thinking and revolutionize how we express ourselves. And that's pretty impressive. Surrealism encouraged us to take our dreams seriously, made being strange okay, and showed us how art and thinking differently can be a powerful force for social and political change. Surrealism gave us the Salvador Dali we know and love by providing a group in which he could be his true self and realize his full potential as an artist. In turn, Dali made Surrealism accessible to all, and because of that, its effects are still felt today. We are left with a legacy of Surrealist techniques, terms, and images that inspire us to find our hidden thoughts and embrace our inner weirdness. So do that. Trust in the uncertainty of life. Capture your unconscious. And go make art with purpose. Revolutionary art that changes the way people view the world. Surrealist art begins with your big idea.